The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everybody. This is Chris Atchison at Georgia State University, and hopefully you can hear me just fine. I want to direct your attention to the chat window at the bottom of your GoToMeeting. And if there's any questions, if you have any comments, please make sure that you put them in that chat window. We'll have several people moderating that chat window, and we'll get to the questions as much as possible throughout the session. This is our first annual general meeting of the International Advisory for Geoscience Diversity. There are a few. Let me go ahead and go to the next slide here real quick. We're kind of shooting from the hip here. We just got the sound working, it sounds like. Good. Okay. Let me go ahead and show the agenda here and make a few announcements as we continue on. First, I would like to thank AGI for hosting our meeting today, and Heather Holton. This session is actually going to be recorded. It's not going to be. It is actually being recorded, and we will post the link to this recorded session within the next week with additional items that we talk about today that we are hoping to get some feedback from all of you on. I've already mentioned the chat window. Please make sure that you use the chat window for any discussion, any comments that you have, and we'll keep up with that. With that, I don't think I have any other announcements to make. Still waiting on a few more people, but we're going to go ahead and continue. The Gsa Events, we want to talk real quickly about what we have done in the past year. Actually, just in the past half year, we had several events at this year's Geological Society of America. We presented our first short course with the assistance of Brett Gilley at the University of British Columbia and Gina Jalen at Missouri. Brett, we'll hear from Brett here in a little bit, and Gina, we're just keeping in the quiet. We don't want to hear from her today. Good to see you on though, Gina. So the short course went very, very well. We had 8 participants. Hang on a second. I'm going to have to, there we go. Our tech guy isn't being so technical right now. So I'll apologize for that, folks. Anyway, we had a good turnout at our workshop at the GSA, and we have already been requested to present this workshop at the 2013 AGU in San Francisco, and there are some other options, some other opportunities that we're looking at as well, and we'll talk about those. We also had a technical session. I believe we had 17 presentations at GSA in our technical session. Went very, very well with Sharon Locke co-presiding with me. We also had our first exhibit booth in collaboration with the International Union of Geological Sciences, the Commission on Geoscience Education. That was very successful as well, and we have already reserved that booth space for 2013 in Denver. We also, in addition to GSA, the IAGD also had impact at this year's NARST conference, National Association for Research and Science Teaching, at the 2012 IGC in Brisbane, Australia, as well as AGU just last week. Been a pretty exciting year, and we've got a full plate for the coming year already too, so we're moving forward. Biggest thing that one of the biggest things that I wanted to cover in this meeting was the current bylaws. In order for us to move forward, we need to approve our bylaws. Now, they are not in any kind of, they're not prepared to be approved at this point. What I need from you is feedback. Now, the link that I provided you here is a different link than I provided in the email yesterday because I spent a lot more time on it yesterday, and rather than making changes in the Google document itself, I went ahead and uploaded a version 4. So I will email this link out as well, but for those of you who are on the call, I would like for you to spend some time, if you need help falling asleep tonight or this over break, then read the bylaws because they're quite dry. I've lost a few years of my life writing these things, but I could use some help in terms of feedback, and let me know what you think. Let me know what's missing, what we should be adding to move the advisory forward. The reason we need these bylaws to be finished and approved because we have some associations, some different geoscience societies that we need to have bylaws and a constitution in place before we can become an associated society. In addition to that, and we'll talk about this here in the future, or here shortly, we are working to establish a foundation account that would be used to support students and research and accessibility. We also need to have bylaws approved to move forward with that. So nothing really more to say. If you have comments on that, just let me know what you think. I appreciate your time on that, and we'll move forward. Kathleen, good question. When do we want feedback on the bylaws? If possible, let's try and have feedback by January 1. I'll send that out in email as well, a follow-up email. In the bylaws, I forget what page is on, but you will see that we are establishing an executive committee, an IAGD executive committee. As of the current time, we have these positions listed as executive committee members that we need to fill. The executive counselors at the bottom, we are going to appoint 2 per year for a total of 4. So this year we're only looking for 2. Next year we will look for 2 more. It's a 2-year appointment. So every year we'll have 4, but there will be 2 new ones each year. So if you would like to learn more about each of these positions, please check out the bylaws section. I tried to start roughing out what each of these committee members will actually be responsible for. And if it's something that you have interest in, then feel free to nominate yourself. We already have, and this, I tried to make it clear in there, but we essentially already have a technology officer, which is the same guy that screwed up the sound a minute ago. So maybe we're actually looking for a new technology officer.
Do you want comments in the document or separately to you?
Comments, so what document?
On the Google Doc, or do you want them?
Oh, no. So yeah, on the bylaws? Okay, so our technology officer here. The comments on the bylaws, please go ahead and make those comments right on the document itself. Thank you. Thank you, Jack Reed. Appreciate that. So anyway, take a peek at those committee member positions, and if you have any interest in those positions, please self-nominate. And what we'll do, let's actually have a deadline, since we're on deadline phase here, of a week from today. So next Friday, which will be the 21st, I would like to have all nominations. I will send out, at that point, I will send out a, we're probably going to wind up using SurveyMonkey for voting on a number of things, and this will be on that SurveyMonkey. So if you're going to nominate, if you are interested in nominating yourself or someone else, please also provide me with a brief bio. And we can talk about that. I think Kathleen has a bio that's commonly used at GSA that we can use for those nominations. Okay. I think I've, in response to the question, permissions to edit the Google Doc. I think if it's not already, I will make sure that it's on there. Okay, that should be it for the executive committee. So here we are to branding. So let me give you a brief background of where we are, where we came from. Essentially 4 years ago, this organization began as the National Advisory for Geoscience Diversity. It wasn't much longer after that that we started having individuals interested that were not in the United States, and we realized that we needed to change the title to international, which is great. Yeah, it was the Canadians, Brett Gilley, that was whining about it. But now, through conversations that we've had this past year, several conversations, we realized that our particular title might not be as effective as what we were once thinking. And we're not, when we talk about diversity, we're really only focusing on access and inclusion. We're not focusing on all the aspects of diversity. So we need to think about what it is and who we want to be in terms of a title. And now's the time to do that as we're really starting to grow. So here are three suggestions. I'm not saying these are the only suggestions, but here are three suggestions of ways to change the title to actually state who we are and what we're trying to do. I'm particularly partial to the top one, but I'm not going to bias you. But if you have suggestions, if you have additional suggestions, you can email them, info@theiagd.org. You can actually put them in the chat box, whichever. Again, let's place a deadline by next Friday, the 21st. And all of the suggestions will be included in the SurveyMonkey that I send out with all the voting. So nominations by next Friday, December 21st. So Kathleen has a comment here. We can keep the top choice for the name and make the slogan increasing access. I see where you're going with that. So the whole idea is to hopefully try and keep the same IAGD, preferably, simply because we are paying for a domain for the web, and we have really nice logos too that we don't want to ruin. But if that's the direction that we want to go and we do need to change all that, now would be the time to do it. So if you have any suggestions for naming of the organization, please feel free to comment. All right, and now I want to turn it over real quick to Kathleen to discuss where we're at with the foundation idea. Kathleen?
Hi there, this is Kathleen calling in. I just wanted to let you know that we had some talks while at the GSA meeting this year in Charlotte with actually the president-elect of the GSA, George Davis, and then the director of the GSA Foundation, which is the organization within the Geological Society of America who is involved with the fundraising and the charitable contributions section. And so we've got the ball rolling where they're strongly interested in facilitating our stewardship and kind of our allying within the GSA Foundation, which will help us develop a way to solicit funding and to basically have some tax support and to avoid things like fraud and things like that in terms of the organization. So we want to move the ball forward in terms of discussing with them how to get approval from their Board of Trustees to enable that. And as part of that, we need the bylaws to be organized and agreed upon. And then we can start basically raising money to put it into a foundation level account. GSA has very good accountants and people who are interested in fundraising, and they would actually at that point give us access to people who do that kind of fundraising for a living and develop relationships with corporate sponsors and things. So anyway, I wanted to let you know that we need to have a certain amount of money kind of in the foundation account to provide what would be the principal that doesn't get spent, and the minimum is $5,000. And then we will, we can't touch that, but then we can do things like try to get check line items when people renew their membership dues for Geological Society of America. We can have a line item saying, please donate to the foundation for this particular diverse fund, or whatever we choose to call it. So some ideas that were advanced about what the money would be spent on have to get kind of approved by the trustees and then the foundation executives at GSA. But some of those would be grants involving instructional development and research for access in the geosciences, then things like student research grants and awards, and travel grants and faculty awards. So that was kind of all I wanted to report, that this is kind of in motion, and of course your input is welcome. We took some liberties in just trying to get people excited in this particular endeavor, and it's kind of unfolding as we speak, and in the new year one of our aggressive goals is to get that money going and foundationally approved. Chris?
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. You know, here are some of the ideas that we have in mind for that support. What we're looking to do is just to progress, you know, through our mission and vision, just progress what we're trying to accomplish and getting more people involved, primarily students. We want to make sure that we have students involved and that we are supporting them in their endeavors and their travel as well. So we will continue to move forward with that, and we will have information that we send out to you as we progress. But the primary thing is that we need to get those bylaws approved so that we can move forward with this. And since I was over here being inattentive and working on other things with my technology guy, I didn't hear if you had talked, Kathleen, about looking for corporate support. We will be looking for specific industry, not necessarily specific, but we will be interested in communicating with industry, geoscience industry, to fund specific awards for student research and student travel that they might be interested in putting their name on. So that might be a way for them to improve their public public appearance of diversity, where it also would help us in pushing for student research and student support. The newsletter, I'm going to turn this one over to Brett Gilley. Brett?
Thanks, Chris. So basically, most of you would have gotten the newsletter. I mean, we're the previous ones, and we'll be still sending these out probably twice a year or so. I mean, the last one we will be talking about, or we talked about all the stuff that we've sort of done this year, and Chris went over those at the beginning, how much we've grown, and basically how great GSA was for us. So we're going to be using this for a few different things. Advertising workshops that we're going to be dealing with, conference symposia that we will be involved with, anytime we get new partnerships, and things we do with community development, and just in general promoting the IAGD. So there's not a huge amount to talk about with this, but things are progressing, and you'll be seeing these fairly regularly, hopefully 2 or 3 times a year. Chris, is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Well, yeah, since you used up a whole 2 minutes, I might as well go ahead and add some more to that. Things that we are looking for. So we are sending out, our goal is to send out newsletters twice a year, like Brett had mentioned. We had our first newsletter in December of 2011. We had a June newsletter where we talked about all the upcoming events that were going to take place this fall. That did take place this fall. But we are looking towards our membership now to add to it. So if there are things that are occurring out there that we should be promoting, we want to hear from you. Some things that we are going to promote are the growth in membership. Currently, I think we have, I was looking at this just today, of the network itself. So if you're not currently on the IAGD membership network, which would mean that you've sent me your name and your contact information to put on the website, please do. Currently, we're at 74 members in the network itself, in the IAGD network, and I see some folks that are attending today that aren't on that network, and I'm very glad to have you on this webinar. If you're interested in being on the network, please send me a message offline, and I can get you added. We have members from 28 states and from 7 countries, which is excellent. And we're looking to continue building that. So the international aspect of our organization is only going to grow. And it's very, very interesting to be able to watch to see where people are actually hitting our website from. We're getting hits all over the world. And that just shows us that once we can start building our resources on the website, it's going to be a very, very useful tool to a lot of folks, a lot of researchers, a lot of students, a lot of instructors that are looking for resources to use in their classrooms. So that would be something that we want to focus on in a newsletter. The network, the email list that I'm using to send out information about things like this webinar. We want to be able to promote this email list. We certainly want to be able to promote the website. If you have been keeping an eye on the website, as of GSA, we rolled out a brand new website, a lot different look and feel to it, a lot better usability, but we're going to still continue to grow with the website and as resources start coming in. Our Facebook page, if you're not on the Facebook page, take a peek. I was skeptical about creating a Facebook page at first, but realized that Facebook is being used by so many people throughout the day that it makes it very, very convenient to get messages out to everyone or news items or news posts. It's easy to post to. It's easy to comment on. We have some people that are now finding the Facebook page. There's a link to it on the website. So if you aren't on if you haven't added yourself to the Facebook page, please do. There's a lot of information that gets shared on there. Other items in this newsletter, just promotion of new instructional and research resources that we want to be able to put on the website, what I was just talking about before. Upcoming workshops, conferences, and presentations. So if you have presentations that have anything to do with accessibility in the geosciences, we want to know about it. Let us help you promote that. even if it's not at a common geoscience conference. If it's an science educational conference, we'll certainly, we'd certainly like to promote you and your work. The 1 through 5 down at the bottom are topics that we actually put in the June 2012 newsletter. So those are just some suggestions for future work. With that, I think I would like to try and open it up. And Heather, I'm going to have you give me a hand with this. I want to open it up for comments and questions from the membership. So if you have comments or questions,
We have a couple of questions.
feel free to click your question button, and we can unmute you. Heather, do you want to take over with that?
We have a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. What I can do right now is go through some of the questions we've had and just make sure that we've covered everything. How about that?
Sounds good.
Let's see.
Yeah.
So the first question, I think we emailed this, but we are sending out the version 4 document via email, and we just put the link up. So I think that's correct.
Yeah, Heather.
Outside of the U.S., is the term... I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, Heather. That version 4 of the bylaws, the link is in the chat window right now. Thanks.
Yeah. And will that be distributed via email as well?
Yes, I will send that out.
Okay, great. The next question was talking about outside of the United States, is the term diverse abilities also recognized, meaning with respect to persons with disabilities? Is that like a term that's recognized outside of the U.S. as well?
To add to that, I think it's a term that is not necessarily recognized broadly at this point, but I think we need to almost spearhead the fact that that's exactly what we're trying to do. The first time that we actually brought this up was at GSA, just like Brett is putting in the chat box right now, when we were talking with Jill Carson at NSF, that that we want to keep an idea of diversity, but it's a diversity of everyone's abilities, and combining the two, it might be something that we just have to educate the public on what the term actually stands for.
All right, great. Another question that's a little bit off this topic in particular. Is there another option other than Facebook that would be equally up to date?
I'm sorry, Heather, could you repeat that?
Is there another option other than Facebook that we could use that would be equally up to date and easy to use?
Yeah, that comment was brought up at GSA as well, and I have not yet been able to dig into that a little bit anymore because of just the timing, the end of the semester and everything. Yeah, Kathleen mentions that we have a blog that I can work with Jack here on determining how to integrate a blog on the website and have it appear in multiple places at the same time. So I will look into that.
All right. Yeah. I think the idea of the blog has a positive response so far in the questions. I think right now those are all the questions that have come in. Are there any other questions that you would like answered? I don't see any coming in. Chris, I'll turn this back. Oh, we have one. Yeah, there's another comment about how Facebook is where everyone is already, so it's nice that it's so accessible and used. but there's concern about Facebook because there are privacy issues that we need to have addressed. I think that's a very good point. And we've made some really good strides, especially at GSA. The GSA booth was very good. And we have a question about, is Facebook really accessible? Chris, would you like to speak to that?
You know what? In terms of what? I didn't see the question, but in terms of accessibility, how is it accessible for?
I guess for a variety of people, because I know that not everyone is on Facebook necessarily. The example brought up is a screen reader or working with like Braille devices.
Okay. You know what we can do is we can go ahead and give talking privileges. I don't know if Gina has her microphone. Gina, would you like to discuss this?
We have to unmute.
Out in here. Hi. So Facebook is fine with VoiceOver. It's a little bit of a pain, but once you get used to it, it's fine. I don't use it with my Braille display, so I'm less certain about that. But generally, if VoiceOver is okay with it, it's going to show up on the Braille display. I do have several friends who use JAWS and have a little trouble figuring it out at first, but also it's fine. It's so widely used that it's kind of worth getting over that learning curve. I know less about sort of the tuning softwares or other sort of access tech issues, but I have a lot of friends with disabilities and we're all on Facebook, so there's that.
All right, thanks, Gina. So we'll continue looking. If other people have ideas and thoughts on social networking options, I think a blog might be a pretty good option. We would need to have people develop their own login for that, which, it sounds like to have the security and the safety of logging in might not be a bad thing. So if you have other options or other ideas, feel free to provide those suggestions. And with the blog posts that we already have on the IAGD website, that'll be something that we can look to improving access to that as well and utilizing it more.
We have a couple more questions, if that's okay with you, Chris.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
One is about the accessibility of this webinar for the visually impaired. What can we do about being able to see the slides a little bit better and reading the slides? Maybe we can discuss ways to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I admit that I failed in that the slides themselves are primarily text-based, and I wanted to do it that way. If we were to utilize this webinar more for pictures and images, I need to make sure that we have better descriptions and that I am more cognizant of discussing what's on the slides as we go through them. So for the most part, everything that we discussed was taken right off of the slides. So the audio, and especially the audio recording, will be able to.
And there was another question. Will a transcript be available for this webinar since we are recording it?
That's a good question, Heather. Is that a possibility through this, or is that something we have to actually do manually?
I think we would have to do it manually.
All right. So yeah, we can look into doing that as well.
We'll also mention that we'll also make these slides better.
One suggestion is that maybe the slides could be emailed out beforehand.
Yeah, and Jack had just said that here. He says we'll make sure that the slides are available afterwards. But yeah, we will make sure that in future meetings we send those out ahead of time as well, attached with the agenda.
Okay, great. How do students become aware of the IAGD and its resources? One of our participants is particularly thinking about community college and tribal college students?
Great question. And really, just like everything else, we need the network to help us get the word out about what we're trying to do. The network is slowly growing, and that's a good thing, but now we need, we're getting a lot of people that are teaching courses and working with students, but we also need those students to take part in what we're doing as well. A big part of the website that we're hoping to do is create a student community. So we want to be able to work with students and build that community that they can have a major part in this as well. So in terms of getting the word out to students, we need the faculty to help us in inviting students to become part of this network.
And may I also make a suggestion?
Sure.
As part of the YES network, I think they will have a newsletter, and we can put some of our information and spread it out to their networks as well in the YES network, and that's an international association of AGI. So they have about 3,000 members. So if there are certain things, we can talk to their editor of their newsletter and get some of our info out that way.
Yes, exactly. And for those of you who are not familiar with the YES network, it's the, what is it, Heather, the Young Earth Scientists?
Yeah, it's the Young and Early Career Earth Scientists Network. And so they are an international association that is under AGI's umbrella. And so AGI does their database and their membership information and stuff for them. So that's part of my tasks with the YES network. And so they have a lot of members from all over the world. And we have a newsletter. We have different means of communications. We host technical sessions at conferences and stuff. So I think kind of collaborating with them would really get the word out quite effectively.
I agree. Good comment. Good question. Good point.
Lena said, have you written articles for GSA today or for EOS?
Have I written articles for those? Is that what the question is?
I believe that is how it is.
Yeah. So we're working on. I'm actually working on 3 separate articles right now. That one that we submitted to EOS that was returned, and for reasons that we're probably not going to go back and try and submit it to EOS again. It was more of a discussion starter about the data that we've been collecting at the GSA meetings, at IGC meetings on the overall accessibility of the Geosciences. That will be coming out. Let me mute you, Heather. And that will be coming out in early spring. We've got some other papers that are aligned to that are going to be coming out related to scenarios of instruction in the Geosciences. So those are going to be a few things coming out. There was a paper, a very brief to the editor paper that was published in Nature Geoscience this summer. But other than that, a lot of the things that are in the works and a lot of those papers that are in the works are all coming back and focusing on IAGD work.
Another comment is when we become under the umbrella of GSA, maybe we can get their info about their actual student membership, because a lot of the K through 12 and higher ed faculty would benefit from this habit of mind as they're preparing their geoscience educational and researchers with these teaching expectations and roles.
Yeah, and I really want to caution the assumption that we're going to be under GSA's umbrella. I think the foundation that we're wanting to establish will be a GSA foundation, but the organization itself isn't necessarily going to fall under GSA. It's going to be, we're going to be our own entity with associated society status through a number of different organizations and societies. But yeah, I agree, working with those organizations to attract students and promote the effort is definitely something we need to focus on.
In terms of publications, please consider the In the Trenches with the National Association of Geoscience Teachers, NAGT, another outlet we could use.
Yep, very good, very good.
Yeah, and there are just confirmational comments about the umbrella thing. It was just jargon.
Yep, I understand.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, any other questions, any pressing comments or questions that we need to address before we call it a day? Okay, well, if there are any other comments or questions that you want to send our way, please use the info at theiagd.org email address. Also, remember the nominations. The deadline for nominations for the executive committee will be next Friday. Also, nominations for branding for the name of the organization itself will be next Friday. And then deadline for feedback for the bylaws will be January 1st. So within the next week, I will look for nominations for executive committee and for the branding, and the week following that, the week between Christmas and New Year's, I guess that's how far along we are already, I will send an email out to the membership that will have a SurveyMonkey link attached to it for everyone to vote. So look for that email. And attached to that email as well, we will have the December 2012 newsletter. So if you have anything that you would like to see in the newsletter for the December 2012 newsletter, please send that our way as well, and we'll include it. But other than that, I really appreciate everyone for coming out, and hope you all have a very good holiday, very safe holiday, and we will